And it really goes to prove that if you don't measure something, nothing will be done about it.
And we have to make New Jersey's business climate more attractive for entrepreneurs.
We are Wonder Women. Like, look at all these women and what they've done and what they've tried. And even if they didn't succeed, they gave it a shot.
I don't think it's fair to put a $4 or $5 billion price tag on middle-class New Jerseyans.
We've got a great lifestyle here, and I don't want to see it ruined because politicians can't manage our finances properly.
Welcome, I'm Lisa Allen, and this is As a Matter of Fact. We are filming from HTTV Studios in Summit, New Jersey. Today, I'm welcoming back Bob Hugin, the former CEO of Celgene, who is also running for the U.S. Senate. For those who have not met him yet, he was born and raised in New Jersey, he's a former Marine veteran, and was the first in his family to attend college, earning a full scholarship to Princeton University. Bob has spent the last 19 years as a leader in healthcare, as well as a vocal advocate for modernizing the American healthcare system. And today, we're going to hear how his campaign is progressing and what he's been hearing from residents in terms of what they want from our next U.S. Senator in this great state of New Jersey. Welcome back. Thanks for coming.
Lisa, thanks for having me. It's a great day.
Yeah, it is. And now you were here, I guess, a couple months ago. It was about 8 weeks ago. Now we're within 4 weeks of the election. And I'm really interested in hearing what you are doing on the campaign trail, what you're hearing from residents, and what the issues are.
Well, we have a busy day today, and I have to tell you, it's also my wife and I's 32nd anniversary today.
Oh my God.
And I think the 27th anniversary of us moving to Summit. So it's a great day for us. But we've been making great progress, traveling all over the state, and the message is resonating. The people of New Jersey know they deserve better, and we're going to make sure they get better.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So what are they telling you, though? I feel like New Jersey is a big state, and what's going on in the north isn't always what's going on in the south, and I think there are some unifying themes, but what are they telling you they're most concerned about?
Yeah. You're exactly right. It's a very diverse state, not just demographically, but geographically, the shore, the hills, the mountains, the agricultural areas, and it's diverse in so many other ways economically. Some parts of our state are doing well, and some parts of our state are really depressed economically and need help. Mm-hmm. The southern part of the state is very different from the northern part of the state, and we've got issues in different parts of the state. But there are a lot of things that bring people together, the values that they share, and the needs. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, affordability is the #1 thing that people raise every day. And the part that it really worries them is the inability to keep their families together. That we spend all this money to get kids through 12th grade, like $20,000 a year, and we have the fastest rate of out-migration of 18 to 34-year-olds, and now we're seeing an accelerated out-migration of senior citizens, and it tears at people's heartstrings. You hear the stories about their parents leaving or their kids not coming back to New Jersey after college. So there's a lot of things. Affordability is the #1 issue, but there's a couple of others. Security, of the safety of their towns is paramount to everybody. A good education system so that kids can do at least as well as they've done, if not better. And then they want an economy that gives them some liquidity, an opportunity to have a job if things don't work out well. No guarantees, but a vibrant economy in New Jersey. And then the last thing is we need better, more affordable, more accessible health care.
Yeah, yeah. So are you being well received by both parties and independents, or is it a unifying message for one party? Like, what do you feel as though, are people welcoming you? Because this is not an easy climate to be campaigning in.
Our country has become too partisan, our state is too partisan, and people have put party and politics ahead of people. Today we're announcing the 7th major Democratic endorsement, a former mayor of a city in Hudson County. So a very strong bipartisan support for us. People are realizing the stakes are too high and the issues are serious, and the people of New Jersey need to be put first. That's why in this campaign, I am not filling out any special interest questionnaires. There are people who wanted to endorse me, but you got to fill out a questionnaire. I said, no, we're not doing that. And my wife and I are financing most of this campaign, a very high percentage of ourselves. So when we go to Washington in January, there's only one agenda we have: to put the people of New Jersey first. Not any special interest or a political party that helped you be councilman and mayor and assemblyman and state senator and you owe them something. No, we're doing this because the people of New Jersey deserve better.
Absolutely. And when you talk about economics, I mean, my husband and I always go back and forth, like, are we going to stay in New Jersey once our kids graduate? Because it is very expensive. But how do we scale back? I feel like this state is faced with so many big, complex issues. The pensions, healthcare, transportation, education, Medicaid, Medicare, you know, there's just so many big issues that how, as a U.S. Senator, I think for the U.S. Senator job, that role is to build coalitions, which it sounds like you're doing, even on the campaign trail. You have people backing you on both sides. But it's about building coalitions and really having the fortitude to get everyone around a table,
yes.
Right?
We've got to work together. I really think there's two things that I can do. First of all, get Washington, D.C. refocused on New Jersey, because we've gotten the short end of the stick for too long. Let me give you an example. We're 50th, right? Mm-hmm. If we were 25th, where Louisiana is, we would have the equivalent of not paying any property tax in the entire state and having additional monies coming to the state. That's how unfairly we're treated. I'm not saying be number one like Hawaii, but if we're just treated the same as Louisiana by Washington, our economic situation will be totally different. That's not going to happen overnight. But I think if we get Washington to support us better, we can give Trenton some time to actually tackle the long-term problems. And I'm optimistic that if we win, when we win, we're going to give light at the end of the tunnel. People say, okay, Washington's going to do a better job for us, and we're going to now put the focus on Trenton. And my job, when I'm elected, there's only 3 positions in New Jersey that every voter gets to vote for, the 2 senators and the governor. I'm going to make sure that I shine the light of day on issues, whether it's municipal, county, state, or federal. And the affordability issue in New Jersey is paramount to everybody. We've got to get people focused. I was encouraged by Senator Sweeney and Senator Oroho the last couple of weeks coming forth with this task force to say, let's really tackle the hard issues. Let's stop kicking the can down the road and deal with them. People cause these problems. John F. Kennedy actually comes to my mind, because he's the one who talked about, in the face of lots of adversity, he said, you know, what encourages me is all of the problems we faced were caused by people. We have good people that can solve them too. So I think as discouraged as we should be because of the economic prospects in New Jersey, the unaffordability of the state, the partisan bickering, the embarrassing things we've seen in Washington, it's people. Let's get back to working together with people and put the politics aside and put people and their issues first and serve them. And I think I'm an optimist, but we're gonna change things.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that's a really interesting perspective. It is relationships and it is people, and I feel like when we look at what's happening, if you read a Gallup poll in 2011 and you read one today, the civility issue was just as bad, almost equally, as it is today. But I think what the difference is social media. You have an amplification of people just being able to say basically what they want really quickly and not think about the ramifications for relationships, right? And focusing on that.
And it's tough. That's one of the reasons why these campaigns are so hard. You don't get into as many substantive issues because people want sound bites and that's discouraging because, for example, whether it's infrastructure like New Jersey Transit or healthcare, those are substantive, complex issues that I spent my life on addressing with substantive solutions. And we've had roundtables on those issues so people understand this is not just about sound bites. This is about real substantive issues that we have to deal with. And today, the full audit of New Jersey Transit came out, and I think that's an example of where there's bipartisan responsibility for how we've gotten. And it's embarrassing to read that report about the number of canceled trains, the lack of qualified people, the lack of reserved capacity for maintenance and no depreciation for replacement of equipment. We're in a very bad situation there. That wasn't caused in the last 9 months. We haven't moved in the right direction the last 9 months, but we've got to get people together and solve these problems. Infrastructure across the entire state is a disgrace.
It's frightening, actually, from a security perspective, because last week there was a derailment and then there was another tragedy, and what happens is there's masses of people that are still getting moved out of New York and they're stuck on trains for hours at a time. And I feel like as a resident along the northern border that we feel helpless, and we need a representative who's going to fight and help us move that ball forward, because this is also a security issue.
It is. And you know, our campaign, I was always worried about, I'm not a person that, you want to have a vision, but I've always delivered in my life, working with others, produce results, not just talking about things. So you're talking about you're running against a guy who's corrupt and ineffective, and we're 50 out of 50. We get the least back from any state from Washington. You say, okay, what are you going to do about it? And I've been so encouraged across the state. I've seen so many opportunities where New Jersey has gotten the short end of the stick, and we can reverse that. I'll give you one example. We had 9/11, terrible terrorist tragedy. We had Sandy, a horrible natural disaster. So what does the federal government do? They say, well, let's pass legislation called the Urban Area Security Initiative. Let's make sure our first responders are better prepared for a terrorist attack or a natural disaster. So they pass this thing, they do a needs assessment. Philadelphia does a needs assessment, New York City does a needs assessment, and they look at, and they include Camden, Burlington, Gloucester County in Philadelphia. New York looks at Hudson, Bergen, Essex. And in the Philadelphia area, the New Jersey component was like 30% of the needs assessment for better 911 systems, better first responder equipment. In New York, I think it was like 20 or 25% of the needs assessment was New Jersey. New Jersey gets 0. 100% goes to New York City and 100% goes to Philadelphia. We get the short end of the stick. It's like the people representing us in the Senate are focused on other things and not focused on the people of New Jersey. So I'm encouraged that as bad as it is, it'd be worse if you couldn't find things that we can reverse to bring more revenue back to New Jersey. There's lots of things we can do, and working together is my first objective. I'm going to hopefully meet with all the new congressmen and both senators and the governor to say, what are the priorities for the next 2 years in Congress to help New Jersey? Let's put aside our partisan differences. Let's fight about a lot of things. But let's agree there are 2 or 3 things that we should work together on.
Yeah, I think it's hard too because nobody wants to give each other credit anymore because they're afraid that if you as a Republican give a Democrat credit or vice versa, then that person will end up losing an election on either side, right? And so it's almost to a point where it's hard to get people around a table because they're afraid of losing an election.
Yeah, there's too much focus on re-election, right? People, this is their being a politician as opposed to being a public servant. And nowhere is that more obvious than in healthcare. When you think about it, having been involved at Atlantic Health for 11 years on the board to really help that organization move forward in a very strategic way to modernize the way we deliver healthcare in our wide range of communities here, 19 years in biotech, I've been very involved in Washington in healthcare reform. We need to transform our delivery system. It was architected 70 years ago for a society that doesn't exist today. You know, the reality, Lisa, is that on the measures we need to take to transform our payment system, to integrate information technology into the delivery of healthcare, to decentralize Medicaid, all things, 75 to 80% of those things, Democrats and Republicans agree on. But because we've made it so partisan with Hillary Care and Obamacare and Trump Care, it shouldn't be that way. It should be the American people. It's an important part of our economy, and it affects every one of us. And we agree on virtually 80% of the transformation we need, but we don't do it because we don't agree on the 20%. That's one of the big things. When I go to Washington, I'm going to work to bring people together on healthcare because it's too important to our economy, and it's important, so important to every single one of us and our families.
Let's talk about healthcare because it is really your strength and where you've been in your career. And I believe when I started working, healthcare was, I took a little bit out of my check, I barely paid anything. I had 2 babies, I didn't pay for them at all. It was all covered under healthcare. We have watched healthcare, as you were talking, it has ballooned out of control and it is surpassing all the increases that people get in salary. And so one of your commercials you said, we need radical change in healthcare. What does that look like? Give me a couple things that actually looks like that people can hold on to.
Let me tell you, there's some great examples that we should be really publicizing. I was down in Atlantic City the other day, and there's a private sector labor union that covers tens of thousands of employees in the hospitality industry, the gaming industry. I'm not speaking for them in any way, shape, or form, but they have modernized their way of providing health care for their members of their union. They have Mount Sinai coming for a primary care center in their community to make sure they keep people healthy as opposed to paying for when they're sick. They have MD Anderson providing oncology care for cancer patients in their system. And they spend about half the cost. And this is world-class care for them. This is not a union that's cutting their people and not providing for their members. It's world-class care, and they're doing it at half the cost of the average program. And there are so many examples of companies that are doing better things. We need to publicize those things. That's one of the reasons why I talk about the Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan initiative of bringing those three companies' employees together, forming a separate healthcare company, and they hired a fellow named Atul Gawande, who's a visionary in healthcare from Mass General Hospital, who really understands the system changes we need. They're going to have their employees, they have the patients, and they have the payer together because they spend $1.3 billion a year on healthcare. They're going to change the way we deliver healthcare. We need more experimentation, more innovation, and that's why decentralizing Medicaid is important. Let 50 states innovate of how to best care for the most vulnerable people in their society. We know better in New Jersey how to care for the people in New Jersey that need healthcare, that are really disadvantaged, that need that help from the government. Montana does it differently. Washington shouldn't be telling us all exactly how to do it. We need more local control to modernize our system. We need to get information technology to change the way we get better outcomes, transparency on outcomes, and transparency on costs. There's so much we can do, and I'm going to be committed to making it happen in January.
Are people concerned when you say decentralizing Medicaid? Are people pushing back on that? Because then, I'm thinking privatization. Are you still saying that the government should manage it, or just on a state level, but federal would still fund it?
Yes, I think we can debate about financing later on.
Okay.
But we know that the system as it is now, states and the federal government are basically 50-50. I'm not advocating changing that model. I'm saying, you look at Tennessee, where dialysis is one of the big costs of Medicaid. If you intervene with pre-diabetic patients and keep them from going into full diabetes, leads to less dialysis down the road. And so intervening what works in your community to keep people healthy, especially for the most vulnerable people in our society, is important for the quality of their life, the length of their life, and it gives better outcomes and lower costs. So I'm not talking about the radical changes that people may propose down the road of financing. I think we can get so much better without having to change the financing formulas we have right now. Let's get the delivery system changed so we have better outcomes at lower cost, and then we could argue about at the fringes of the 20%. But let's deliver better health care to everyone for lower cost, and we can do that within the existing framework of what we have.
I agree. And we could stay on this topic the entire half hour because
Yes.
it is a #1 topic.
It's important.
I think it absolutely
Other
is.
than affordability, healthcare, affordability in New Jersey, taxes are so high, Lisa. Everybody talks about how they're all plotting to leave the state as soon as they have the resources to do, and the middle class are the ones that are going to be left holding the bag.
So let's talk about that for a second, because it kind of leads into taxes, economy. Governor Murphy had just talked about attracting corporations, and he's attracting film and media. And so I see that as a good thing, right? That he's getting big corporations to come here. But then
I don't think I've heard of one big corporation coming here.
Right, or
It's a
that
good
they're
idea.
creating an idea of getting them here, because he wants to attract them.
They won't come with the tax frame we have. Their employees have to pay so much in property taxes. They have to pay so much in income taxes. You can't justify bringing a company here if you're a serious fiduciary of responsibility as a company's executive. So it's tough. We created thousands of new jobs in New Jersey. It was tough, and we did it basically without taking a lot of aid from the state. We just did it because we expanded here in Summit without any assistance from the state or federal government, because we thought it was the right thing to do. But it's tough, let me tell you, to bring companies here. We need to have a vision of innovation and entrepreneurship in New Jersey, but we have to hit the underlying economics of it. If it's not affordable, it doesn't matter what great vision you have if you don't have the substance to make a foundation to get people to come here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the corporate tax rate, I think, is 11.5%.
Just increased.
Right.
But most states are reducing it. But again, I think corporations should pay their fair share.
Yeah.
But we're competing. New Jersey's competing, and we lose companies. You know, the sad thing about this, Lisa, this really troubling is we have an incredibly strong national economy, 4.2% GDP growth, the strongest national economy since the 1960s. Wow. New Jersey is being just barely pulled along by that national economy. Normally, when you have a strong economy, people come back into the workforce. That makes the labor force grow. More jobs are created. New Jersey today, I think, has 40,000 less people in the workforce, in the labor force, than we had a year ago. Wow. Very distressing about the long-term job opportunity in New Jersey.
Well, let's talk about that, because I feel like with jobs, so education is freedom for people. Jobs is the next thing. So if you're not educated, you can't get a job. And I feel like when you look at New Jersey and you look, actually, let's look at the U.S. from the long trajectory. There is automation that is coming down the pike, and already we don't have enough jobs for people. And in the next 10, 20 years, it's going to be even harder. And one thing I talk about, and this is an unusual question, I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about this, with artificial intelligence coming down the pike and potentially us losing jobs, I don't feel like there are many people with the eye on the ball on how we're ethically going to manage that as a society. So I'm not against artificial intelligence. I think it's a wonderful thing, but the reality is that where are the jobs going to be? And so will you be a fighter for us?
Yes.
I think we have to talk about that simply because no one does.
Absolutely. It's a very important issue. In fact, McKinsey put out a study about New Jersey, and about a year and a half ago, I think, it said in 12 years, more than half the jobs in New Jersey would be jobs that don't exist today or exist only in title, not in the skills and capabilities, be 100% different needed to accomplish those jobs. If you don't have an education system that is providing those kids in high school and community college the skills to do those jobs, we have a tough situation. But it's even worse in New Jersey. The point that you raise about the new kind of skills. And we also have to be a little more optimistic than you are in the sense that when the car came out, everybody said 97% of the people work on farms. There'll be no jobs for people if we automate the farm. So new jobs will be created. But I do think we have to have the transition. The government has to play a very positive role in ensuring we have a smooth transition when we have kind of very transformational changes in our economy, which artificial intelligence or machine learning can produce. But I have to tell you, it's even worse in New Jersey because we have the fastest rate of out-migration of the 18 to 34-year-old. And with this latest cap at $10,000 on state and local tax deductibility of those taxes on the federal income tax return, that's the last straw for the high earner in New Jersey. And we're seeing an accelerated out-migration. And we lose their taxes, we lose their philanthropy, which is going to help housing values at the high end come down, put more pressure on the middle class because we're not going to collect less property taxes, it's going to be shared more in the middle class. But you know, to your point about machine learning, it's their capital that we need. And when it leaves the state, we lose their capital. And when you're losing the 18 to 34-year-old who has the aptitude, the inclination, and the education to apply information technology to our economy to create the jobs of the future, we don't have the capital for the formation of those companies with those new ideas, and we don't have the resource, the people to do it. So that's why addressing affordability, 18 to 34-year-olds can't afford to live in New Jersey. The taxes are so high, the property taxes are so high, rents are so high. We have to address the fundamental affordability issue, then we can tackle the machine learning aspects of jobs of the future. Ones that I'm incredibly involved in both personally and professionally, we have to deal with. I think it's really important that you raise it. We've got to get more visibility and publicity and talking about the issues. But it all comes down to affordability. If you're not affordable, even if you have great plans for machine learning, you're not going to have the people or the capital to invest and make the jobs available to people.
Absolutely. I'm going to switch gears because we are ticking down our time.
Sure.
Immigration.
Yes.
What is your stance? Should we be separating our families at the border?
I don't think we should be separating our families. I've been pretty clear about that. We need safe, secure cities. That's the number one thing I hear from all New Jerseyans. They want to live in a community where their kids go to school, they don't worry about them walking to school, or they go to the grocery store, they worry about their security. They want a safe, secure town. They don't want sanctuary cities. They don't want law enforcement pitted against each other. People want a secure border. You're not a country if you don't have secure borders. Immigration is a very positive thing for our country. My grandparents were all immigrants to the United States. It enhances our culture, our economy. In all ways, immigration is a good thing. But you're not a country if you don't have secure borders. We need comprehensive and compassionate immigration reform. I personally think we should be stapling green cards, H1 to H1B visas for people getting PhDs in biochemistry and computer science. They're the job creators of the future. We've got to revamp our seasonal worker program. We can't run our tourism business in New Jersey, the shore. We can't run our agricultural business without seasonal workers. And importantly, we have a great group of people here who are building constructive, productive lives in New Jersey. Not all came here legally, but that's our problem of not having secure borders. If they're building constructive, productive lives in New Jersey, we should provide a path to citizenship. Not that's shorter than ones that are people that came here legally, but we should provide that path to give certainty to people. And it's been a political football. People don't want to solve this problem because they think it's a good political tool for them to fight against others. We should come together, get this resolved, and move forward. I've been very clear about that. It's the right thing for New Jerseyans. It's the right thing for our country.
Right. Environmental. I've heard you say you believe in climate change.
Oh, listen,
did I get that right or wrong?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, I'm a fisherman and I'm an outdoorsman, and I don't think there's a more important treasure you leave to your children and your grandchildren than a wonderful environment that's healthy and clean and vibrant. And so I see climate change when you fish. I believe in it, and humans certainly had a significant impact on the climate change. And I'm a science-based person, an evidence-based person. Both sides have parsed the data to fit their political narrative. We've got to start bringing back to science and evidence what we need to do. But protecting the environment has to be one of the highest priorities of our government and our public servants, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
I feel like for New Jersey, that's a no-brainer. We should be leading the green, renewable energy. I think we do a lot of green energy here as it is, but I think that's where the jobs are also. I mean, there's a variety of places, but we should be leading that charge. And with all the storms across the country, I believe that we should not be ignoring what's going on across the country. That's just my personal opinion.
You're absolutely right. I think what has happened is people have, again, made this issue so partisan unnecessarily. The technology is changing every day. It's accelerating. We're getting better battery technology so we can have longer life of the assets that we bring from wind and solar. That gives us the opportunity to use them much more effectively and more economically competitive in the future. And we can create a strong economy and do one that's incredibly environmentally sensitive. Governor Kane has been incredibly helpful to me on this. You can be a leader in both strengthening the economy and protecting the environment. They're not mutually exclusive. People are doing that for political purposes, and that's wrong. Another example of how partisan we've become unnecessarily, and it's bad for people when we allow that to happen.
Right. One last issue that we're going to hit, and we're going to talk about it fairly shortly because there's not a lot of information out there. It's about education. And in May, there was a civil rights group that sued New Jersey because they're claiming that we are economically segregated. And so what happened was Governor Murphy took the lawsuit, and instead of running it through legislation, he is now working through the courts to bring it to resolution. There are a variety of different solutions. You could do magnet schools. Some people say that you could take kids out of certain areas and then entice and financially incentivize schools to take students. But one of the third options that I feel is a little bit concerning as a parent is you would almost go into a lottery system. So as a parent, there are three options. I have to list my top three options where my child will go. And I may not get my first choice, which would be my hometown, and now my child can be bussed out. And I don't know how much you know, because it really is very quiet. There's not a lot of legislators that know about it. There's not a lot of citizens that know about it. Would you work on that issue in terms of making sure that communities stay intact? And while government has the best intention, sometimes the downward spiral of them controlling solutions is not always the best.
Right.
We need to engage citizens in such a sweeping change that is occurring in New Jersey.
Yes, and you think about New Jersey, when legislators don't legislate to solve the problems for people, New Jersey courts have taken a very activist role in their thinking of solving the problems and actually create bigger problems by their alleged solutions of these problems. So we should demand the people that are elected to serve us that make these issues transparent. We should not have economic segregation. People should have the opportunity to live where they want to live and work where they want to work, make sure the policies and protections to prevent economic segregation. But if we're going to remedy things, it needs to be done transparently, it needs to be done reflecting what the community wants and needs, and done in a way that's representative of the people. And so we can't let the courts dictate the way we do things. We should demand legislators solve these issues and deal with them in a way that's appropriate for each community. So I think you're great. It's very important to highlight this issue. We've got to raise this visibility so people talk about it and not let the courts solve our problems. The leaders of our society, the public servants, should be evolving the solutions to our issues here.
Yeah, well, and I volunteered in Jersey City for many years, and communities actually by nature want to stay intact, and they want their communities to be strong. And there was a big movement in Jersey City to clean up street corners of drugs and to start after-school programs. So the idea that the government would just press down and say we are going to break up all communities, I think is a bit hubris on their part, that we should really focus on how do we keep all communities strong. And if there are kids that need to come into other communities or we have to reshuffle, that's a conversation to be had. But you only get buy-in if you include residents, because then it's
But you know, Lisa, I don't think it's just in Summit or one town or another. Parents want their kids to be educated in their community. You look at it, when places have choice, they want their kids to be educated locally. We have to make sure there's equality in education, whatever school you're going to go to. That's why, if you look at my policies on education, choice is important. When there's a failing system, we should address it aggressively to ensure that we have the remedies to give the kid an opportunity to succeed. That includes pre-K. We have to do more in the distressed lower income areas for pre-K programs. But everybody wants the same thing. And we just got to talk about it and do it in the light of day, not behind some little closed way of dealing with these solutions. They should be public, and we should be talking about these issues.
Agree. We have to leave it there. It's already been a half hour.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thank you for coming on. And we're going to leave it there. So thank you for watching. I'm Lisa Allen, and this is As a Matter of Fact. You can also watch other great programs just like this one at hometowntv.org. And don't forget to like us on Twitter and Instagram. Have a great day, and don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 6th. Thank you.